Let's graph this equation. If we look, we have the equation y equals x squared plus 12x plus 32. And the highest degree we have for x is 2. So that means that we're trying to graph a parabola. And if we're trying to graph a parabola, we need an axis of symmetry. Remember, an axis of symmetry is that invisible line that cuts our parabola in half. And the formula for the axis of symmetry is x equals negative b over 2a. A is the coefficient in front of x squared. Here we have 1. And b is the coefficient in front of x, 12. When we plug those values in, we get negative 12 over 2 times 1. When we simplify, we get negative 6. So that means our axis of symmetry is the line x equals negative 6. Now that we know the axis of symmetry, let's try to find our vertex. The vertex is the point that's located at the intersection of the axis of symmetry and our parabola. And since it lies on the axis of symmetry, it shares the same x value of negative 6. So that means the x-coordinate for our vertex is negative 6. We just need to find the y-coordinate. To do that, we take negative 6 and plug it into our original equation and solve for y. So we get y is equal to negative 6 squared plus 12 times negative 6 plus 32. Simplifying, we get negative 4. That means when x is negative 6, y is negative 4. So our vertex is the point negative 6 comma negative 4. Now that we found one point, let's try to find some more points located on our graph so that we can actually graph this parabola. To do that, let's make a table. Let's start by picking some x values. Now to pick these x values, it's a good idea to pick x values that are on either side of the vertex. Since our vertex has the x-coordinate negative 6, it's a good idea to pick a couple x values that are bigger and smaller than negative 6. So let's pick negative 8, negative 7, negative 6, negative 5, and negative 4. Great. Now to find our y value, we need to plug that x value into our equation and solve for y. So we need to take negative 8 and plug it in. We get negative 8 squared plus 12 times negative 8 plus 32. Then we repeat this for negative 7, negative 6, and so on. This will give us a good amount of points to graph so that we have a good idea of what our parabola is doing. Now when we're done plugging in each one of these values into our expression, we need to simplify each one of these expressions in order to get our y value. So we need to take each expression and simplify it to get y. Here, when we simplify our expression, we get that y is equal to 0. Here, when we simplify, we get y is equal to negative 3. Here, we get negative 4, then negative 3, then 0. Now look, we have x values and y values. We have x and y coordinate pairs. So let's write down our ordered pairs. Here we have the ordered pair negative 8, 0. So we have negative 8, 0. Then negative 7, negative 3. Then negative 6, negative 4, which remember is our vertex. Then negative 5, negative 3. And finally, negative 4, 0. Now we have a bunch of points that we can graph to make our parabola. So now that we have all of these ordered pairs, let's graph our parabola. So in step number 4, we'll graph all of our points. We need to draw a coordinate plane. And then we need to plot our points. First, let's start with negative 8, 0. When we plot that, we get a point right here. Then the point negative 7, negative 3. We find negative 7, negative 3, and we plot a point. Then negative 6, negative 4, our vertex. We plot a point at negative 6, negative 4. Then negative 5, negative 3, and finally negative 4, 0. Great! Now we've plotted all our points. To make our graph, all we need to do is connect the dots. When we connect the dots, we get a parabola that looks like this. So, our equation graphs to a parabola that looks like this. And remember, we started with that axis of symmetry, x equals -6. So that means the vertical line that cuts this parabola in half should be x equals -6. Let's graph x equals -6 and see if that's true. Let's see, we have x equals -6, and we can see that x equals -6 is the line that cuts our parabola in half. And look, at the intersection of the axis of symmetry and our parabola is the vertex, -6, -4. So now we've taken our original equation and graphed it into a parabola.